Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to take a moment and make some connections with you to expanded form, which is just another way that we can write an equivalent decimal. So if we start off and if we look at the decimal 6 and 35 hundredths, if I am wanting to write this in another way, so if we want to rename this number, we could also write it as 6, and remember, and represents the decimal, 35 hundredths. Another way that I can write this decimal is by showing the expanded form. And in 4th grade, you focused on each place value, so 6 plus 3/10 plus 5 hundredths. Where this year I've pushed you to look at it in relationship to a power of 10. So my 6 would be 6 times 10 to the 0 power, because that's the same as 6 times 1. And then we would say there's a 3 in the tenths digit, so 3 times 1/10. We can also write that as 3 times 1/10. Now I included over here that chart to break down and show each place value as a reference. The last one we have a 5 in the hundredths place value. So we could say that that is 5 times 1 over 100, because that's hundredths. Or 5 times 100th as a decimal. Because remember, each of these would represent 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, 0.0001. I can also write it as 1/10, 100th, 1,000th, and then 1/10,000th. And then going in the other direction with our whole numbers, this is where we have 10 to the 0 power, 10 to the first power, 10 to the second power, 10 to the third, 10 to the fourth, 10 to the fifth, and 10 to the sixth to represent millions. So if we were to do another number, for instance, like let's do 49 and 200ths. So another equivalent way that we can write this is in word form. We can say 42 and, because and represents our decimal, 2 hundredths. Because remember, the decimal we read like a whole number, and then whatever place value it lands in is our label. I could write this out in expanded form, where in 4th grade you would do 40 plus 9 plus 2 hundredths, where again I want you to try and show it in connection to a power of 10. Whoops. There is a 4 in the tens place value, so 4 times 10 to the first power. Plus, there's a 9 in the ones place value, so 10 to the 0. And then we don't have any tenths, so we're going to skip that. There is a 2 in the hundredths place value. Or I could have written that as 2 times 1 over 100. So let's just do one more as a review and practice. So let's do 8 and 273 3 thousandths. So we can say 8 and 200, 70, 73, and then that 3 lands in the thousandths place value. So this is another way that we can write an equivalent decimal to 8.237, or I can write it out using expanded form. 8 times 10 to the 0 power plus, there's a 2 in the 10th digit, so 2 times 1/10, plus there is a 7 in the hundredths place value, and lastly there is a 3 in the thousandths place value. Or I could write this as 8 times 10 to the 0 power, because that's the ones place value, 2 times 1/10, tenths. There is a 7 in the hundredths place value, and lastly there is a 3 in the thousandths place value. So this is an equivalent way to write the decimal 8 and 273 thousandths. So make sure that if you're not feeling comfortable after viewing this video, that you contact me, excuse the bell, and let me know how I can help.